few years ago, right before we had Canyon, our first child, my wife and I were getting more and more into mountain biking. Now, with the birth of Canyon, we would have to get creative in ways that we could still go riding. I thought about walkie-talkies. One of us could ride and one of us could stay at the car with Canyon. I looked into walkie-talkies, and the Talkie Mountain Radio stood out to me as it has a compact design and seemed to be built for the outdoor enthusiast. Now, while talking to one of the founders and after watching the Walkie's range videos, we decided to wait on the project until a future radio was created and out to the public. Now we have the Talkie 5-watt radios, which, as the name suggests, are 5-watt GMRS radios, improving the range of the radio. Now, to use a 5-watt radio, you technically have to purchase a license, which I did with the FCC. This is a $35 license that lasts for 10 years and it covers you and your family, so it's really not bad at all. I think before I dive further into this video, it is a great time to say that I am not experienced with radios, frequencies, repeaters, etc., at least not right now, but I'm learning. So please don't take this review as someone with deep radio experience, as I'm just a regular outdoor enthusiast who is looking to get into radios to support my activities. I will say the little red guide that comes with these radios is top notch. You should go through it and read it cover to cover. It will give you a better understanding of radios in general and, of course, the radio that you purchased. I received 2 radios with 2 waterproof hand mics, and right from the unboxing, the quality of the radios shocked me. While they are a little bit heavy at first feel, the build quality is superb. I've dropped mine on dirt, gravel, even in a puddle, and the radio shows very little signs of wear. Now please note that these drops were just from me being clumsy and it slipping out of my hands, and not the Gator clip, which I'll talk more about later in the video. The radios have an IP67 waterproof rating, so they will withstand torrential downpours and even up to 1 meter of full water submersion. I love the fact that it has no screen and instead use a light display that shines through the radio. This is huge. Having a screen on a radio gives you one more thing that could potentially break or fail out in the field. On top of that, screens can get glare from the sun and be difficult to use in sun or, on the contrary, in the shade. This light display can be easily read in any lighting conditions. Each of the radio's physical buttons have a nice tactile response when engaged, and are all still extremely accessible while wearing gloves. The radios come with a standard short antenna, a steel Gator clip, and a backup leash. A little different than their little sibling, the Mountain Radio, which comes with a carabiner clip. You can choose to purchase carabiner clips, and I did receive some as well, but in my testing, I was so happy with the Gator clip that I just never took it off. The nicest part is that once mounted on a belt, pocket, or backpack, the radios don't move. This thing is solid. My fear with the carabiner is that the radio would just be bouncing, as it is a heftier version of the Mountain Radio. If you are nervous about security with the radio and the Gator clip, you can add the included backup leash, which is something I add when going into precarious situations like a river when fishing. I did take these out on a morning of fishing with my good friend Nick. We each had separate departure times, so we caravanned up to the river. Having the radios while deciding on a spot to fish while being in different cars was so nice, as it allowed instant communication on a road and canyon that doesn't get cell service. Before fishing, we attach the waterproof hand mics, as they let you communicate without moving the radio while remaining lightweight enough to place on top of the waders. I can see these hand mics coming in extremely handy during fishing trips, backpacking, or really long hikes. Being able to clip the smaller mic somewhere closer to your mouth lets you communicate with ease without having to reach down and unclip the main radio. If you're new to radios, as I stated above, I would take the time to read through the quick start guide. At first, when using them in my neighborhood in Colorado Springs, I was sad that I would hear interference from other GMRS radio users in the area. Now, after some reading, I discovered that each one of the 22 channels has 121 privacy codes available. You can pick a channel and program a privacy code so your signal is only heard from the users with that exact privacy code and channel you are on. This makes it so you can communicate with your intended partners without interruption or someone outside eavesdropping on your conversation, which is very nice. The weather feature is something I thought I would never use, but after having a practical situation when it came in handy, it is something I can say now that I will use in the future. The first weekend we moved up to camp, we had a great snowstorm which knocked out power and therefore any Wi-Fi or communication that we had. Using the weather feature to hear the weather status in our local area was very welcomed. As far as the range of the radio goes, I personally won't dive too much into this topic as it has been covered on Rocky Talkie's YouTube channel with a video I will link below. The video offers practical applications where you might be using the radios and what you can expect in terms of range. I would highly recommend checking out that video to make sure your expectations for your application are accurate. The 17 centimeter antenna adds a little more range for those who want it, and I like to use it as I think the radio sounds cleaner and looks better in my opinion. Of course, the stock antenna that it comes with is more practical in certain instances where you want to keep the device as compact as possible. The battery on the radio is stated to last 4 to 6 days of standby time, which I have found to be quite accurate. It's important to note that if you have emergency weather warnings or dual channel monitoring on, then the battery will of course decrease. For those looking to go off-grid for a longer time without a power source, they do sell backup batteries to keep your radios going longer. Now, I don't know how many people will look into getting these, as these radios are charged via USB-C. If you know me or this channel, you know how much I love USB-C charging. I almost always have a USB-C cable on me to charge my iPad or computer, so being able to charge the radios with this is so nice and practical. Older radios use proprietary bases or mounts to charge with, which seem like another pain in the butt when trying to pack for a trip. It's hard to find any negatives on the Rocky Talkie 5-watt radio so far. If I'm nitpicking, and this is very small, the steel Gator clip, I don't think it's actually steel. I had to add a little plate so I can attach it magnetically in my truck. Overall, I think the Rocky Talkie 5-watt radios are a win. The build quality is superb. You really need to feel them in your hand to know that. Online, they might look a bit plasticky in pictures, but in person, they live up to the name and ruggedness of the Rockies. The waterproofing makes them a superb option for fishing, rafting, boating, skiing, backpacking, and just about any other activity you can think of when it comes to water exposure. If you don't need the range, full waterproofing, or are looking for a lighter version of the radio, then you should look into the little sibling, the Mountain Radio. It's also important to note that both radios can communicate with one another. So if you would like to mix and match and have one of these and one of the Mountain Radios, you can. The screenless design makes them even better to have, as they offer one less thing that could break. The addition of the Gator clip to the radio makes it incredibly sturdy while mounted, and the USB-C charging capabilities make these super easy to throw into a case and be on your way. By the way, I use an old GoPro case to store them in when I want them to be packed up. They don't fit in the case with the longer antenna, but I'm able to fit 2 radios with the backup leash and the 17 centimeter antennas in the case. So if I'm being honest, I thought I would get way less use out of these than I currently do. While we haven't taken them mountain biking yet like our original plan, as life is getting busy, I do use these on a regular, almost daily basis to communicate with Jordan while we live in the mountains for summer camp. Thanks to Rocky Talkie for sending these radios out for review. Whatever you do in the outdoors, if you want better communication with your group, partner, friends, you can count on these. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it or found it helpful in any way, make sure you give it a thumbs up and like the video. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. And lastly, a question for you to answer in the comments below. What would you use radios for in the outdoors? Curious to know everyone's use case. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.